Joining me now from Kiev is Petro Burkovskiy. He is the executive director for the Democratic Initiative Foundation. Petro, good to have you on the News Hour. I want to pick up with you where I left off with Dasha in terms of these attacks. She says that it is increasing the level of anxiety. Those are the words that she used. When you look at these attacks, and it's important to know, it doesn't sort of directly acknowledge, in keeping with the Ukrainian security policy, it does reflect a pattern of more frequent and, to add to that, deeper cross-border strikes since this counteroffensive picked up speed. How is this likely to change things? What is your analysis?
Thank you. That's you're really right when you are speaking about the pattern. But I want to remind that these kind of attacks were announced last year in September when the commander-in-chief, the Ukrainian commander-in-chief, General Valery Zaluzhny, with other General Mikhail Zabrodsky, they published an article about the goals and objectives of the war and the ways of the war. And they said that for Russia, the centers of gravity are inside Russia. So for Ukraine to prevail, Ukraine must strike deep inside territory and carry the war into the Russian territory. So what we see right now, it's only preparation. We see the probing, testing strikes inside Russian territory. This, I would say, reconnaissance of the anti-air defense, of the Russian air defenses. And I think the more will come in autumn, when Russia will try to terrorize Ukraine with missile attack, when Russia again will try to destroy critical infrastructure of Ukraine. But Ukraine, in turn, I think will do some preemptive strikes targeting air defense system of Russia and, of course, critical infrastructure of Russia in order to disrupt these attacks. So my point here that these attacks are not tied to the current counteroffensive operations in the front line, but they are more of strategic sense. This is a testing before a huge and I would say massive campaign of drone attacks later this year.
Petro, here's the problem that I see. You're calling these attacks strategic. I get that, but this is a very dangerous and slippery slope. What happens when or if Ukraine starts using some of the weapons that it's received from the West? I'm talking about tanks, perhaps even fighter jets, F-16s, in these cross-border attacks. By definition, you'll actually have NATO weapons attacking Russia, and that could be a real problem.
Well, you see, I would not agree with you here, because in order to use these kind of conventional weapons, like tanks and aircrafts, you need to have a planning. And so far, Ukrainian command has not announced any plans to capture Russian territories. So there is no point of sending NATO-supplied tanks, NATO-supplied infantry fighting vehicles, and especially NATO-supplied fighter jets into Russian territory. No, that won't happen. But what would happen is that the unconventional attacks, using the massive use of drones, of long-range drones, which will hit strategic objects in Russia, and of course, there will be subversion groups inside Russia, like we saw it in May and June, when they penetrated Russian territory and tried to seize Russian cities. So the Prigozhin's mutiny showed that it's really possible, but that won't be done with the Western-supplied weapons. We have enough trophy Russian weapons to give them to the Russian volunteers, so they then can try to gain their foot in the Russian territory.
Okay, fair enough. Petro Burkovskiy, thank you very much for joining us here on the News Hour. I do appreciate talking to you. Thank you.